What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video I'll be featuring the team that helped me to make an early climb to veteran in the Summer Cup. Cradily Lead, Jellicent Safe Swap, and Toxapex Closer. Cradily works as a good core breaker with some of the Mud Boy and Fire type teams you'll see, as well as the ability to hit flyers for super effective. Then you have the Jelly and Pex back line that functions as an ABB style team against a Vigoroth lead, where in addition, Jellicent is meant to hardwall opposing Toxapex, which is why I'm running it with Hex instead of Bubble, and my own Pex, which is meant to hardwall that Vigoroth. And with that, let's get right to the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Cradily into Whiscash. Fantastic lead. They're going to swap out into a Skeledirge, and I'm going to swap it to my Jellicent. Perhaps I should have stayed in and thrown a Rock Slide first to either guarantee that shield or massive damage, which could have been a smart play because now by swapping into the Jellicent, I'm forced to make a bait call, and my opponent unfortunately does bait me with the Disarming Voice. But now I'm going to farm up, throw 3 more hexes on good timing. My opponent lets it go, and that Surf does KO. A little bit of surprising there for them to let that move go. Perhaps they were thinking that the Surf, they would have survived the Surf to get off a Shadow Ball, but they did not, as down goes the Skeledirge. They come back in with the Whiscash, able to land a move onto the cache. They go for the Mud Bomb, and we're able to make it to another Shadow Ball. This will take out the Whiscash if they don't want to protect it, which they don't. Down goes the Whiscash. They have a Talon in the back, and my opponent concedes the match. Jellicent putting in a ton of work in that matchup. GG's. Next battle, Cradily into Diggersby. This is a positive lead for us, as we do hit for super effective with the Bullet Seeds and the Grass Knots, but the Diggersby does outpace us to the Scorching Sands. And if they get a Scorching Sands debuff attack fall like they do here, it could help to flip the matchup in the Diggersby favor. First Grass Knot will land, and it does seem like that 2 Grass Knots will just be enough to KO. And if the second Grass Knot's not enough to KO after the debuff, then the subsequent Bullet Seeds will be. The reason why I showed up that second Scorching Sands right there is because if my opponent decides to show up this Grass Knot, they would land 2 Scorching Sands, they showed up the Grass Knot, and then I would show up their move in return, of which is most likely to be a Fire Punch bait. Or at that point, it's probably not a bait, but just a Fire Punch in general, as it would be enough to take out my Cradily. So I decided to shield the Scorching Sands just in case they want to protect their Diggersby. Then added to that, if they're staying in with a Diggersby against a Cradily, they're mostly weak to the Cradily in the back. So showing up that second Scorching Sands helps to keep things a little bit better for you in terms of neutral play. I go for that Surf against the Poliwrath. I'm hoping it's going to be just enough to KO the Poly. It's not, and they're able to get off another move. So a little bit of a misplay going for that Surf there. Should have overfarmed instead. But that's all right, as they do have a Bruxish in back. And here, this, even though that the Bruxish is hitting for super effective with the confusions against my Toxapex, and my Toxapex will be hitting back with resisted brines, it kind of shows how much of a difference a stat product has and makes in these matchups. As we do get the second shield with the Rock Slide, and now we can bring in our Toxapex, and look how much those poison jabs are chunking. So they will land a Psychic Fangs against my Pex, and we'll outpace to reach this brine right here. This brine will just not be enough to KO the Bruxish, but they're not quite at another Psychic Fangs yet to take out my Toxapex as we poison jab down. GG's. Next battle, we lead Cradily into Skeledirge. And this Pokemon, along with Charjabug, Talonflame, any of those 4 to 5 turn move users, you can hit them with a cycle reset by throwing on good timing, force them to throw on bad timing themselves. So as you'll see, we throw Rock Slide after 6 Bullet Seeds, excuse me. That's not quite good timing for us, but it's just enough to offset it, where if they throw another Incinerate to try and put themselves on good timing, you'll then throw 1 more Bullet Seed and then another Rock Slide, and then that will put them at 100 energy, where if they want to throw on good timing, they'll have to throw another Incinerate. But like I said, that will put them over 100 energy. So by constantly hitting them with the cycle reset, that will cost them to throw right away, essentially giving you a free Bullet Seeds worth of energy. And that's why it's very important that on those lead scenarios, you throw the Rock Slide after 6 Bullet Seeds against an Incinerate user, like Skeledirge and Talonflame, or against a Charjabug, you want to throw it after 5 Bullet Seeds. Now back into this matchup, they have a Ferrothorn in the back, and Ferrothorn is this team's worst nightmare. But we're going to see what we can do. We do have the Ferrothorn on our Toxapex, which is much better than having it into our Jellicent. And we do hit it with 2 Sludge Waves. Even though those Sludge Waves are single resisted, they do some nice damage to the Ferrothorn. And now up 2 shields, because they let both of those Sludge Waves go, we're in a pretty good spot, despite them having the Ferro. Because this Ferro is in Surf range. We do commit the shield to the Power Whip. They are 1 Bullet Seed off their next Power Whip. They let that go, and since they let that go, I've automatically won this game. Even if they shielded that Surf, I was in a very advantageous position, but them letting that Surf go just is a guaranteed win for me, because this Skeledirge is forced to overfarm here, and in doing so, I'm able to get to the second Surf to take them out, and if they don't overfarm, then I just shield their move and still take them out anyways, where 1 Hex takes out the Ferro. But GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Cradily into Trevenant. So we're going to throw our Rock Slide after 5 Bullet Seeds here for good timing. If they throw after 7 Shadow Claws, which is good timing for them, you'll just let it go, you'll no-shield it, and then throw 1 more Bullet Seed and then your own Rock Slide. You'll want to throw on good timing in this matchup, it's very important. And you always want to no-shield the first move the Trevenant throws. If they go for a Seed Bomb, it's great. If they go for a Shadow Ball, it's fine. Because then you'll be able to get to this Rock Slide, second Rock Slide. And if they shield that second Rock Slide, you're just going to pivot into your Jelly, where you can shield this move that the Trevenant throws. If they go for the Seed Bomb, then I can go for 1 more Hex and then the Surf. This Surf will KO the Trevenant, and this is right before they reach their next Seed Bomb. So if they want to get off that Seed Bomb, they will have to shield a Surf. And if they do shield the Surf, then you just shield their move and Hex them on down. It's kind of a pretty good situation to be in for the Jelly. Now they come in with a Quagsire. We do get CMP tie here. So it's a little unfortunate for my opponent as they did get the 1-turn bring in. They do full send the Stone Edge. We do make the correct call in shielding the Stone Edge, and they have a Pex in the back. And this is a 1 matchup for us. They can shield that Shadow Ball, but because of that Hex damage that I got into their own Pex, I can bring in my own Pex, and this is just game over. Because they will be able to land a Sludge Wave. As a matter of fact, we'll just be trading Sludge Waves back and forth. And with them having their shields down, there's not really much my opponent can do unless they catch a Sludge Wave onto their Quagsire. So all I need to do is just watch out for that catch. And as long as they don't catch a Sludge Wave, this game is over. So we're going to overfarm on energy. You see me wait that turn there, fire off this Sludge Wave. Again, not going to be enough to take out the Pex, but brings them deep into the red. They can fire off their own Sludge Wave here, but I wouldn't be KO'd by it, and I would be able to make my own brine. And with me being able to make that brine, along with the HP my Jelly has left and a little bit of a Cradily, this game is a win for us, and it seems like my opponent has quit out of the app. GG's. Next battle, we lead Cradily into Mantine. So pretty decent lead for us. If they do have Ice Beam, it makes it a little bit more tricky. But if they're on Aerial Ace and Water Pulse, it's a much better matchup for us. So we will fire off the Rock Slide after 5 Bullet Seeds for good timing. They overfarm, and I'm going to let this go. I don't really like shielding Cradily in these neutral matchups. I prefer to save the shield for the Jellicent or the Toxapex if needed. And it seems like they're not on Ice Beam. They are on Water Pulse, so they're going to be going for these Aerial Aces. What that means is I can overfarm, bring myself to 1 off the next Rock Slide, and then go for this Rock Slide on my own to KO the Mantine. So I'm going to stay in, go for yet another Rock Slide. This will do some decent chip damage to the Trevenant, and then I'm going to pivot into my own Pex. Pex is a good pivot here because all that Trevenant energy is going to be walled. And by them switching out and bringing in their own Pex, I've automatically won this game because I can just save both of my shields for the Jellicent. And with their Pex out of the way, even if it's still a little bit of alive by the time it takes out my Pex, I will be able to Hex it down. I no shield everything the Pex throws, and then I can just straight up Hex down that Cradily. With that Rock Slide's worth of damage it took, and saving 2 shields for my Jellicent, that Trevenant is in a no-win situation. It can throw as many moves as it wants, but it won't be able to get to 3 moves against my Jelly before I Hex it down. So again, they even showed up one of my Sludge Waves here in this matchup, but that's perfectly fine because I'm not planning on shielding my Pex at all. Now here you see they pivot into their Trevenant and they'll make it to Seed Bomb number 1. We give up our shield. We continue to Hex, no use in throwing a Surf here. They make it to Seed Bomb number 2, and that's it. You'll see how much these Hexes are chunking against the Trevenant. We do get the Hex down, and then with the Hex down, we can just go straight for the Shadow Balls here. As we're not yet in Sludge Wave range, so there's no need to bait, and the Shadow Ball does land. GG's. And that win actually secures a 5-0 set to bring me up to 2499 ELO as we go into the next set, just looking for a 3-2 to hit Veteran. Now we lead Cradily into Pidgeot in what is an extremely bait dependent lead. I could go for the Rock Slide right away here, but since it's a non-shadow Pidgeot, I kind of prefer to throw on good timing since I'm not threatened by a Brave Bird and a knockout. They land a Brave Bird, and then they bring in a Whiscash? What? Grassnot just absolutely one-shots this Whiscash, and if they're safe swapping the Whiscash like that, then it's a pretty safe prediction that they do have a Quagsire behind it. So back in comes the Pidgeot. We will go for the Rock Slide as we do get it, and now we're going to pivot into our Toxapex. If they have that Quagsire, I'm essentially wanting to throw away my Pex here and save all my remaining, both of my shields for the Jellicent, as well as a little bit of health on the Cradily, just in case that Bullet Seat damage will do something against that Quagsire. And it is the Quagsire as it comes in. The Brine will do barely any damage against the Quagsire, especially since my attack is debuffed from the Feather Dance of the Pidgeot. They will go for the Stone Edge here. The Stone Edge is just not going to be enough to take me out. I'm one off another Brine, and instead of getting to that Brine and then throwing it, I decide to swap out into my Cradily because I think that energy will be a lot more useful when it's not double debuffed. So I will swap in my Cradily. They end up throwing an Aqua Tail, which is fantastic, and now I can bring in my Jellicent. I have 2 shields. It's a Shadow Quagsire against a Jelly. I decide to give up my shields here to the Stone Edge, and we do get the call right. It's a very tough bait for the Quagsire to make, since if they do Aqua Tail and I no shield it, I'm essentially just going to win the game on the spot. So I do give up my first shield, and we make the right call. And now they swap into the Pidgeot and throw right away. I was pretty sure that they only had a Feather Dance there and not the Brave Bird, so I let it go. And it ends up that they did only have a Feather Dance, or they had a Brave Bird and they just baited, but either way, we do make the right call. And back in comes the Quagsire. We shield the Stone Edge again. Another right call for us. And we are going to now fire off the Surf. Surf does get their final shield, and we outpace to our next Surf before they reach their next Stone Edge. This does take out the Quagsire, and it turns out that we didn't even need that energy on the Toxapex after all, as a Surf is enough to close out. GG's. Next battle, we lead Cradily into Shadow Girafarig, and this lead is so annoying to deal with because every Shadow Giraffe double shields against Cradily, and then that energy goes very far into Jellicent, especially if they have a Thunderbolt. So we throw after 5 Bullet Seeds for good timing. We let this go as we don't want to shield the first Psychic Fangs. Then one more Bullet Seed and then the Rock Slide. This does get their second shield, as it always does. And now we're going to pivot into Jelly. And here, you have a call to make. I always get this call wrong. I don't think I've gotten this call right. If I no shield the move, it's always a Thunderbolt. If I shield the move, it's always a Psychic Fangs. So it's just your call in that situation, what you think they're going to do. I do shield it because it's a Psychic Fangs. And this is only enough for another Psychic Fang, so I let it go, and that does so much damage. And now in comes a Vigoroth. Vigoroth is going to have to go for a Rock Slide here to take out my Jellicent, which they are going to right here. Perhaps there's an argument to be made I should have gone for that Surf on bad timing, but I wanted to shield that energy and protect it, as if they're swapping a Vigoroth into my Jellicent, I have a pretty good idea that they're going to be weak to the jelly in the back, so I want to keep it alive. So that's why I do store that energy and then swap it in my own Pex. And this acts as a good sponge for the Vigoroth, as well as lets me get a massive energy lead. Turns out they have their own Pex in the back, and this is going to be a close game, but keeping my Jellicent alive there happened to be the good call because of that. So we're not quite yet in Sludge Wave range. This won't take us out, as they do land the Sludge Wave. One more Poison Jab, then our switch timer is up. I swap into my Jelly, get to land the Shadow Ball. This will do some very respectable damage to the Pex. And here I go for the Surf. If I went for the Shadow Ball, they would have reached a Brine in time to take out my Jelly, so I do settle for the Surf. But in return, it also allows them to farm me down. But I do have a very clear win condition in this current spot. I can bring in my Cradily, force them to waste some of their energy, and now I can bring in my Pex as long as they don't get a catch. They end up going for the Sludge Wave, which is great. So now I get to the back-to-back Brines. This Brine will take out the Toxapex, and all I need to do is look what they come in with. If they come in with the Giraffe, I just tap through. If they come in with the Vig, I have to watch for the catch and land this Brine. And me landing this Brine here does seal the matchup for us, as even though my Pex is on low health, their Giraffe is in one Poison Jab range as we get the KO. GG's. So we are 3-0 in this set. We have locked in Veteran, but we're looking to get more wins and gain even more elo. So see what we can do. Into a Mantine Lead. Again, 5 Bullet Seeds and then the Rock Slide. But this time they throw right away. Again, I'm going to let it go, calling that they're on Water Pulse, and either they bait with an Aerial Ace or they are on Water Pulse there. One more Bullet Seed, then the Rock Slide. Rock Slide does land. Another one more Bullet Seed, and yet another Rock Slide. And if my opponent wants to keep their Mantine alive, they will have to give up a shield, which they do. And now, just in case they are on Ice Beam, I'm going to swap into my Jelly, as well as check for any electric types that they could have. They go for an Aerial Ace, and they're staying in here. And so supposedly they're very weak to the Jelly in the back. Supposedly a Vigoroth or Toxapex or something like that. And here, I make a pretty big misplay. I should go for the Shadow Ball for the KO. But I'm looking at this health range thinking a Surf plus a Hex is enough. But a Surf plus a Hex is not enough, as they survive on 1 HP and are able to make another Aerial Ace. So that's a bit unfortunate. But we're still in a somewhat decent spot as they come in with a Vigoroth here. And because they're coming in with a Vigoroth, we're going to be able to get both Surfs off. One Hex and the first Surf, then another Hex and then another Surf. And here, now I'm just going to pivot into my Toxapex, save my Jelly for a potential catch later, and it ends up being a Diggersby. We will give up a shield to the first Scorching Sands. We get the call correct. Now we're going to load up to another Brine. To a Brine, excuse me. And that one does some very pitiful damage to the Diggersby, despite it being super effective damage. Fire off a next Brine before they get to their next Scorching Sands. That one does bring them down into the red. I'm looking to swap it in my Cradily to save the Pex. We do end up making the catch of the Scorching Sands onto the Cradily, and that's pretty fortunate for us, as now they bring in their Vigoroth. And here, I would make it to a Rock Slide if they didn't throw a move. They end up going for a Rock Slide to guarantee the KO. A little bit of an overkill since I was still one more Bullet Seed off, but we'll take it as it's pretty fortunate for us, because now we can go for the Brine here. And look at that, I get 1 turn lag on the bring in, as well as 1 turn of lag when throwing the charge move. So they get 5 counters for my 3 Poison Jabs in the charge move. That's pretty unfortunate there. And here, I'm gonna be honest, I lost track of the Vigoroth's energy, so I swap into the Jellicent thinking they are at the back-to-back. And they're not only are they not after that free counter of energy on the jelly, but we fortunate enough to get that poison jab down just as soon as they get to the back-to-back. So despite my terrible counting and that lag, we are still able to take the match. GG's. And that actually does give us the 3-0 in this set. Next battle, Cradily into Mantine Lead. We know how to play out this matchup by now. Same situation as last time. We're going to let this go, calling that they are on Water Pulse. But no, they are on Ice Beam. The Ice Beam does hit for super effective damage. So we are still going to stay in and play it out like usual. Fire off the back-to-back Rock Slides. First one lands. Second one will be getting their shield if they want to keep the Mantine alive. Which they don't. They let their Mantine go down. They come on a Vigoroth, so I'm going to pivot into my own Jelly, hoping that they eventually swap out of this matchup. So then I can align my Pex onto their Vig later. But it seems like they're going to stay in and get some chip with the Vig first, at least before they swap out. Which they do. They go for the Rock Slide, and now they're just staying in. So I'm content letting this next Rock Slide go as well. And now I can just go for these Surfs here. We are one Hex off the next Surf, which will take out the Vigoroth if they decide to stay in, which they do. So they are forced to give up their final shield here. Their first shield if they want to keep the Vigoroth around, but they end up having a Whiscash in the back. And now this is going to get a little bit tricky, but I still feel like I'm in a good spot here. I can go for the Surf, get the first shield from them, swap into my Cradily, force their energy. And now at this point, with my Pex up 2 shields to 1 in a very negative matchup, I feel like I have this matchup won, especially since my Jelly will be able to reach another Surf before it gets mud-shotted down. So this Whiscash has a lot of work ahead of it. We will shield up the first Mud Bomb, and now I'm going to save my second shield for the Jelly. Since again, I know that I won't be able to get mud-shotted down, and they will have to go for a Mud Bomb to take me out. So we land that Brine. They land a Mud Bomb, and here we're not in another Mud Bomb range yet. We will be able to land a Brine to force that shield from them. And if they shield my next Brine, I have the game won, as they're 4 Mud Shots off the back-to-back Mud Bombs, where I'm only 2 hexes away. So I'll just straight up outpace. But I lag. They get 2 free Mud Shots to get to the back-to-back Mud Bombs, while I'm sitting there in lag purgatory. And that takes a 4-0 set down to a 3-1. And that's just really unfortunate because the 1-turn lag on the bring-ins, the lag you saw here, the constant frame drops on Android, and the game just straight up freezing mid-battle has been happening so often lately, and it's just extremely frustrating to see a game that you love reach a state like this. I really hope they do something about it soon, as it's becoming a serious problem. Anyways, we look to finish the set off strong in the next match as we lead Cradily into Trevenant. We know the game plan here, play out the 0 shield scenario. Go for the Rock Slide after 5 Bullet Seeds. This will do some decent damage to the Trevenant. They let it go, and are now going to be firing off a move of their own. It is the Shadow Ball, does some hefty damage to the Cradily. And now we're going to go for 1 more Bullet Seed and then the Rock Slide. If they shield this like they did last time, we will swap into the Jelly, which they do and which we do. So they are at a potential Shadow Ball. Even if it's the Seed Bomb, we are going to give up our shield. They do Seed Bomb bait. So 1 more Hex and then a Surf. This matchup is looking very familiar to the last Trevenant Lead as they let it go and bring in another Vigoroth. So perhaps it is that Toxapex in the back. And if it is that Toxapex in the back, this will be a little bit of a tricky matchup, since this Vigoroth is being able to deal with my Jellicent here. I don't quite want to give up a shield yet. I probably should, just because if it is the Toxapex, which I'm predicting, a Rock Slide will do more than a Sludge Wave. But I decide to make a pretty poor call here. I let that move go and decide to get farm on my Toxapex, just hoping it is not their own Pex, even though I know it is. And they land that Body Slam. I let it go, and since it is their own Pex, I'm now just going to lose this game. If I shielded my own Jellicent, I would have been in a very good spot, but because I didn't shield my own Jelly, and my own Pex is now down this much HP, I'm not going to be able to take it. I do shield the Sludge Wave correctly, and I swapped in my Cradily thinking I'm only 3 Bullet Seeds away from the Rock Slide, but I'm not. I'm 4 Bullet Seeds away, and because now my Cradily just got thrown away like this, that's kind of salt in the wound, and I'm especially not going to win this match at this point. So once they do land the Sludge Wave, I will concede the match. As you'll see right here, I will top left. GG's to my opponent. So we do end up finalizing with a 3-2 in this set, which is just enough the 7 elo gain it gives us to get veteran rank. So Cradily, honestly, I feel like Cradily was the star of the team. Toxapex was more of just the bulky tank to take hits. Jellicent, kind of the neutral generalist here. And Cradily really worked well in setting up my back line or even core breaking those teams. So if you're looking for a strong Summer Cup team to climb with, I can recommend this one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate ya. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.